Welcome to the Inspirational Authorship webinar series. Hi, I'm Joyce Ross. In this webinar, we'll study Golden Writing Key number 6, part 2, which is, where appropriate, inject humor into your inspirational prose. Humor heals, inspires, and educates by encouraging readers to see the lighter side of life. Humor can be injected into your story through narration and through scenes via dialogue and the actions of characters. One of the chief benefits of humor is that it disengages pain and fear by changing the perspective. When one is able to laugh at an unfortunate event or circumstance, the happening or situation loses its grip on one's heart and life. With the lessening of this grip, hope becomes possible. Change becomes possible. Humor is also beneficial in that it encourages readers to smile or laugh, which increases feel-good chemicals in their bodies. Additionally, an amusing anecdote or witticism has the potential to be the catalyst that lifts the cloud shrouding a reader's heart and mind. Some types of humor, however, are not suitable for inspirational prose. Humor that is disrespectful of another, a group, race, or religion is inappropriate. Inspiring stories are meant to heal, not hurt. Therefore, satire and sarcasm wouldn't normally be found in a story that is intended to inspire hope and healing. Humor is a useful tool for giving readers an emotional break following a heart-wrenching account in a story. However, injecting humor in the midst of a scene or narrative about a tragic event could be viewed as being distasteful or disrespectful. In the initial draft of her chapter, Alchemy of Grief, Shirley Bueckert wrote about the morning she found her husband lying face down on the floor between the baseboard heater and his bed. When the 911 operator asked if he was warm, Shirley said, "Of course he's warm. He's lying next to a heater." While co-editing her chapter, realizing that some readers might interpret her comment as an offensive attempt at humor, we took it out. Let's take a look at the excerpt from Shirley's chapter. "Lou, Lou," I shrieked. My daughter and son bolted into the bedroom. All I can remember is seeing their bright blue eyes as reality faded. Somehow, I dialed 911. As the emergency dispatcher began asking baneful questions, my knees buckled as I seemingly floated skyward. Disconnected from my body and shocked numb, I observed the scene below. In slowed motion, my children and I were mercury-like silver balls with trails of gray light following us as we attempted to maneuver alternately through black smoke and red heat, then silver snow and blue ice. "Mom," our daughter screeched, sparking something deep within. Taking charge of the 911 call, she snatched the phone from my hand. Her touch triggered my spirit to fall, full force, back into my body with a discombobulated whoosh. My daughter, frantic, her voice cracking as she tried to stay in control, repeated the 911 dispatcher's questions. "Does he have a pulse?" "I'll find one," our son said, pressing his fingers on his dad's wrists, then his neck. After numerous attempts, in desperate resignation, he admitted, "I can't find one." "Is he breathing?" Each holding our breath, my son and I took turns leaning over the face we so loved, listening, praying that we'd hear Lou breathing. "I can't tell," our son cried out. A steady stream of emergency personnel flowed into our home. Politely and professionally, they ushered me away from my husband's side. Over and over, almost as though they were interrogating us, the emergency workers asked the same questions repeatedly. A while later, Lou was placed on a stretcher. Unable to watch him taken from our family home for the last and final time, I faced the wall. The sense of kinship readers feel with authors is one of the reasons the Heartmind Wisdom Collection has been well received across North America. While caring for my ailing father before he passed in 2013, having read her story, I had a sense that Shirley was an earth angel in my corner, someone who understood the depth of my grief. I often advise new authors to write in a way that allows readers to root for them. In this case, I felt as though Shirley was rooting for me. Though I'm a very spiritual person and was at peace with his passing, when Dad died, Shirley's story gave me hope that I'd one day also feel happy again. I encourage you to read Alchemy of Grief and Heartmind Wisdom Collection #1. Anecdotes are a terrific way to inject humor into a story. An anecdote is an interesting or funny short story about a real event or occurrence. Here's an example. In 1961, Ernest Hemingway purportedly committed suicide via shotgun. In 1992, his sons formed Hemingway Limited to license the use of his name, image, and signature. Understandably, they received criticism when one of the first items licensed was a Hemingway shotgun. Here's another example. It's from my family. Mom was tardy, Dad impatient. One evening while getting dressed to go out, Dad nagged, "Alma, how much longer are you going to be?" Mom huffily retorted, "I told you half an hour ago I'd be ready in 10 minutes. In Heartmind Wisdom Collection #1, Daisy Landrigan wrote about losing her husband. Though separated, Daisy stayed by her husband Robbie's side throughout his battle with colon cancer. Her chapter, Till Death Do Us Part, is a heartfelt glimpse into how she put aside all past hurts and dedicated her life to ensuring their children had a treasure chest full of happy memories with their father. She ended her story with a humorous anecdote, giving readers an emotional break. Because Daisy ended her chapter on a happy note, any reader suffering from a recent loss will likely be more hopeful that he or she will one day again feel happy. Let's take a look. My husband and I were actually very lucky to have 3 extra years to be a family. The girls and I will forever cherish the wonderful times we spent swimming with the dolphins, exploring new lands, and laughing. One memory that still makes us chuckle happened during our Disney cruise when the girls and I came back to our cabin and caught Robbie stark naked as he stood in the balcony doorway gazing out at the ocean. Quickly closing the door, the kids and I doubled over in laughter. Who would have known catching a glimpse of their father's butt would become one of our most treasured memories? Daisy wrote her chapter in Heartmind #1 to honor Robbie and to carry on his mission to help others. Sharing his frustration that the drug he needed to slow his colon cancer was extremely costly and not yet available in Canada, the producers of W5 did a television documentary about Robbie's plight. It was called Pills, Patience, and Profits and aired 2 years after Robbie died. Daisy is an extremely caring and strong woman. I hope you get a chance to read her chapter, Till Death Do Us Part. Anecdotes about good intentions gone wrong can be particularly amusing. Here's a true story that my dad used to tell. While chopping wood, Grandpa asked Dad to toss him his prized new hat. The axe came down just as Grandpa's black and red checkered hat landed on the chopping block. Dad ran into the forest and didn't go home until after supper time. In his chapter, Fearless No Matter What, in Heartmind Wisdom #1, J. Dennis Robert wrote about his knack for getting into trouble. Let's take a look at a good intention gone wrong excerpt from his chapter. One day as I looked out, Mrs. Gallard, our English neighbor, stood at her back door staring bewilderedly at the rain barrel. Smiling, I recalled my escapade of 2 days earlier. At first, I just played with the water bugs, but after a while, it made more sense to join them. As I watched, Mrs. Gallard suddenly threw her arms up in the air and then dumped the water. Luckily, later that day, the rain came down hard and refilled the barrel. I figured I should check for water skaters once more. "What's your name, little boy?" Startled, I sheepishly blurted out Joey, which is short for my first name, Joseph. I could have chosen a different name to tell her, because I have 3 given names. Dennis is my second name, and I think is the one my mom liked the most because she personally picked it for my baptism. My third name was once my grandpa's, Stanilas. Nobody ever called me that. "Do you know what the water in the barrel is for?" Mrs. Gallard asked. "No," I tentatively voiced. Mrs. Gallard explained that she liked to use the soft rainwater for her laundry instead of the harsh water from the tap. That made sense. It was a good thing that she didn't have any soft water for her laundry that day. She didn't know it, but I'd set mink traps under the clothesline to catch some rats that lived near the compost pile by the old Silver Dairy's milk wagon out back. She might have stepped on one. What would have happened then? Dennis's chapter, Fearless No Matter What, is chock full of funny situations and events. I hope you read his story in Heartmind Wisdom Collection #1, and I guarantee that it will make you laugh. Slips of the tongue are a fun way to add humor through dialogue. A slip of the tongue is an unintentional comment. Freud claimed that a slip of the tongue could be caused by a subconscious assumption or desire, hence the term Freudian slip. In my case, my sister Laura occasionally placed the Freudian slip into my brain so I could later choke on it. Here's an excerpt from my chapter in Heartmind Wisdom #1, Rainbows, Butterflies, and Other Miracles. When I was dating a Jewish man and learned that men of this faith don't often marry Gentiles, I shared my concern with Laura, telling her that I was going to confront my then boyfriend about this disturbing news. Well, when you do, Laura said with a snicker, make certain you don't say genitals instead of Gentiles. Ha ha, I replied, holding back credit for what was truly a quick play on words. You guessed it. There I was, lying in my beloved's arms as I softly asked, is it true that Jewish men don't marry genitals? My boyfriend was very kind and became quiet for a moment before saying, I'm sure you meant to say Gentiles. When young, in my family, comedic banter was a preferred way to communicate. My sister Laura was, and continues to be, particularly adept at witty repartee. I could never win an argument with her because she'd say something clever and I'd end up in stitches. Here's another excerpt from my chapter. As is often the case with siblings sparring for top pecking position, we frequently teased one another that he or she was adopted. Of course, doing so always elicited the desired response of a quick visit by that day's lowly rooster to mom or dad for reassurance that he or she was indeed a blood relative. Once teenagers, absolutely convinced that the two of us were superior to our family, my sister Laura one day remarked, remember when we used to tease one another about being adopted? Don't you now wish that we actually were? In her third year of university, Laura was also the brain who posed the question. If 90% of society is dysfunctional, don't you think we should lower the norm? One day I longingly stated, I wish I could sing awfully bad. Laura retorted, you do. As you're likely beginning to realize, a vibrant and witty bunch, my family provides me with an endless supply of laughable happenings and quotes to write about. Though I was careful not to write anything that would shed a family member in a negative light, before publication I had each one read and approve what I wrote for Heartmind Wisdom Collection #1. Should you include anecdotes about or quotes from family or friends, I advise you to do the same. Adding comedic actions into scenes is a terrific way to inject humor into your prose. Slapstick, for instance, a form of comedy based on deliberately clumsy actions and humorously embarrassing events, generally gets a chuckle out of readers. Here's an example of slapstick from The Kindness Ambassador, which is an inspirational romance novel that I wrote. She took a small step forward, indicating that she wanted to get moving. Your briefcase. Stooping to pick it up, he bumped into Jocelyn, knocking the umbrella out of her hand and onto the sidewalk. Sorry, Brendan muttered, retrieving her portable sunshine, then his briefcase. Feeling like a dumbass, in his mind's ear, he heard Terry mocking him from beyond. Not much of a ladies' man, are you, bud? In his chapter in Heartmind Wisdom Collection #1, J. Dennis Roberts shares how being fearless no matter what didn't always go well for him. Now, decades later, his humorous account of some of the things that went wrong make his chapter a fun read. Let's take a look. Finally, with the lake in our eyes view, we didn't wait for the car to make a full stop. Flinging the doors open, we raced toward the water, stumbling along as we exposed our swimming trunks. The cool lake water had a bite to it, but all you had to do to get used to it was keep moving around. My friend's older brother Raymond was standing in the water letting the younger kids dive off of his shoulders. Raymond, can I have a go of it? Sure you can, JD, he said, using my latest nickname, but you gotta dive in at an angle. Too excited to understand exactly what he meant, I dove straight in. I remember feeling something warm, someone pulling me out of the water, being placed on rocks, and a cloth being put on my mouth. Are you all right? Does it hurt? It hurt all right, but thinking about the impending pain my parents would inflict upon me when I got home hurt even more. Apparently, I hit a rock diving straight into the water, knocking myself out and busting a few teeth. That ended my fun for the day. I sat on the shore until everyone was ready to leave and then slept all the way home. Seeing my cupped lip and bloody mouth, "Oh boy, JD," was all my mom could utter over and over again. The memory of my recent expensive surgery and the fear of facing my father crept in. As I said earlier, Dennis's chapter, Fearless No Matter What, is guaranteed to make you laugh. I hope you read it. In her chapter, The Miracle of Connection in Heartmind Wisdom number 1, Georgina Grace wrote about her challenges with quieting her mind. Let's take a look at the comical narrative she included about when she finally gathered enough nerve to visit her doctor to ask for help. Ears ringing, frenzied mind, fluttering mid-region, heart-thumping ribcage painful, escape route mentally secured. I neatly lined the vitamin bottles on the doctor's desk, ignoring that my shaking hands were leaving tiny little sweat pools behind. Certain that an excruciating migraine would soon rotate my eyeballs backward, animatedly validating the severity of my neurotic existence, I waited. My doctor arrived, surveyed my vitamin collection, and nodded. I haven't a clue as to what she then said, but remained certain it was a caring, probing question. However, what I heard was Charlie Brown's teacher, followed by a series of nasally quacking sounds. Then the doctor smiled. I tried to smile, couldn't, darn lips froze, but not my legs. They jerked my trembling frame upward so fast that the room spun in unison with my whirling fears. Stammering something such as, "I can't do this," rubbery-legged me bolted for the door. My problem, not hers. Fix it yourself or live broken. Obviously an Olympian sprinter, the doctor beat me to the door, blocking my exit with patient-stealing triplicate prescription pad determination. Stunned silly, I just stood there. Now what? Should I wrestle her down? She was kind of puny, so I knew I could take her. Imagining sounds of ha-ha, he-he, and men in white coats coming to take me away to the funny farm soon thwarted that pondering. After some coaxing, much talking, and many tears, I left the doctor's office armed with knowledge, a few prescriptions that would right my chemical imbalance, and a sense that I'd be okay. You'd think from there forward that life would have become perfect, right? Wrong. As a child, angry about a move and overwhelmed by the 1,000+ students in her new high school, Georgina Grace coiled inward, clamped closed, and became mute. It was the beginning of an emptiness that haunted and hurt until she gradually unearthed the keys to her motto, which is live, love, laugh. Her chapter, From Emptiness to Living, Loving, and Laughing, is a humorous and delightful account of her journey. I hope you read her chapter in Heartmind Wisdom number 1. This completes today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and feel better equipped to tell your story. It's time for your writing exercise. Today's exercise is pretty simple. What I want you to do is write a scene or narrative about a humorous, true event. If you'd like me, Joyce, to provide you with feed-forward editing advice on your humorous scene or narrative, email your phone number and a copy of your prose to info@heartmindeffect.com. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment below. Wishing you love and light. Stay in touch.